All right, this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Works Committee. This meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 and Council Rule 5A. We have one item on the agenda today, and I'm joined in chambers by Councilman Herndon, Councilwoman Purvis, Councilman Benson, Councilman Bratcher, Councilwoman Chappell, I think Councilwoman McCraney. Do we have anyone online? Vice Chair Shamika Parris-Wright has an excused absence. All right, we have one item on the agenda today, and that is a presentation of personnel. I'm just going to leave it at that, personnel, because I don't have my notes in front of me, and I think it's open-ended. If you'll introduce yourself for the record, you have the floor, ma'am.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Julie Toller, Assistant Director for Public Works, and today we are here to talk a little bit about turnover and personnel for our department. As you're aware, this past year we have implemented the DOT under the Department of Transportation. We've added many positions. Kind of a brief overview of Public Works. We have 531 positions currently total. We have 370 union positions. We have 5 bargaining units that include the Teamsters, Master, IBEW, Firemen and Oilers, Carpenters, and AFSCME. All 5 of those contracts are newly negotiated, most of them. We have 3 that are expiring in 2028. With those contracts, we have been very successful in negotiating higher salaries for our union folks, so that has assisted, I believe, in the past 6 months for retaining people as well. We have 161 union or non-union positions. And then of those of the 531, we have 254 CDL required positions. The CDL required positions I'll get into a little later, but they can include Class A CDLs, Class B CDLs with tanker endorsements, etc. Next, the turnover rate by fiscal year is listed. Last year, or the past few years, it has been normally or unusually higher than normal. At this point, it looks like we're trending down for fiscal year 26, but that number is only from for this fiscal year, so since July. And it matches our Louisville Metro government turnover rate. We're kind of trending in the same way. If you look below, they're at 8.1 and we're at 8%. This next slide is position-specific turnover. The percentage of terminations by location, it's not labeled too good, but if you look, the first 630 Meriwether is our waste collection division, 620 Meriwether is our bulk waste division, 3507 Newburgh Road is our signs and markings and Central District Road division, 600 Meriwether is the administrative building on our Meriwether campus. The Metro Development Center is the 444 building. 617 Outer Loop is our West District. And then 636 East Gray is our Electrical Maintenance Division. 595 Hubbard's Lane is our East District. And then 636 Meriwether is our Waste Reduction Center. The position termination detail to the right shows our administrative assistant position that we have a count of 4. That is one of our entry-level positions. I would assume that's why the turnover is fairly high. It does include a position at our Waste Reduction Center, and then all throughout our different districts, there's an admin assistant at each of those for support. And if you look down our equipment operator position, it looks like there's about 9 since July that have turned over. With that, as I stated, we did negotiate the Teamster contract successfully, and they did increase the rate of pay for equipment operators through that. So hopefully moving forward, we've been able to hire many of those positions, and hopefully we'll be able to lower that turnover rate. One of the other higher positions are the sanitation tipper CDLs. I would probably say that with that, it's a very highly physical position, as you all are aware, working in the elements, long hours, and also requires a CDL to obtain a CDL within 90 days. So some of that I would contribute to those that I just listed. If you look at the bottom, it does list terminations by reason, resignation, resignation during probation, dismissed, normal retirement, dismissed during probation, death, declined job offer, disability, failure to return from leave, job abandonment, and then unable to accommodate. The next slide is for fiscal year 26 as well. It's our vacancy data. Shows right now we're at 59 vacancies. 10 of those are currently in the hiring process right now. Hopefully we're successful in getting those 10 and we'll be at 49. Our hiring data shows that we have hired 60 positions since July 1st. We have a great HR team that has worked really hard to interview and find candidates and recruit. Our solid waste supervisors, we've hired 2 since July. The highest would be the administrative assistant and the tipper CDL as well. Some of the ways that we recruit are through job fairs throughout the community. 24 within 2025 since January is what we have attended. Our HR team and our frontline staff and management, we all team together to go to different career fairs throughout the community, whether it be at the U of L, Goodwill, Urban League, Youth Build, JCPS. They go to several different high schools, including Butler, Fairdale, and then various colleges. We also partner with different associations like SWANA, the Intelligent Transportation Society of Midwest, and Women of Asphalt to post our positions on those websites to find successful candidates. We utilize Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, different brochures, and then we had creative video job descriptions that are posted on our NeoGov site when people are looking at the various positions. Touch a Truck events and then other special events throughout the area, we do try to at least have a representative or have some kind of brochure or literature for them to take to represent. We have several different partnerships, one with IBEW, that we have 2 in-house electrical maintenance apprentices that was created in 2024. They're full-time Metro employees who commit to completing the 4-year apprenticeship program at IBEW. With that, they agree that they'll stay with Public Works Electrical Maintenance Division for 2 years following their completion of the program. We also have 2 LJATC apprentices that are temporary apprentices from the hall that we get every 9 months, and that's just a rotating basis. We have Fairdale co-ops that come to our road divisions. We typically have done 2 every school year, and we have been very successful in hiring many of those out of high school to be at our East, West, or Central District. I would say probably 10 or 15 in the past 4 years that we have hired. Holy Cross, we just started the past 2 years having seniors come in that are interested in engineering. They come once a week, typically on a Thursday, for about 6 hours and shadow different team members of the engineering division. Like I said, our second one he just started last month. So that's been a successful program. We did meet Bill, the DOT director, last week with U of L to see what kind of relationship we could start with U of L for their engineering students. Maybe have one co-op for engineering and one for GIS. But that we will have to request some funding for in the future. This next slide is about our safety and equipment training team. We have over 97 courses within that. I'd like to introduce Chris Gamahorn. He's our safety and equipment training manager, along with Fred Greenwell. He is our supervisor, and we have 3 other specialists that train our staff and teams for various different programs. So I'm going to let Chris talk a little bit about his program, and to go.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. I've been with Louisville Metro Public Works for a little over 16 years now. And previous before that, when I came in, I come from the United States Air Force, and I come in here, they didn't even have a safety program. Unfortunately, most people get a job after an event occurs at the workplace, right? So we created everything from evacuation maps to SDS programs and it keeps accumulating. We're at 97 courses now. And in my 16 plus years, we've trained over 800 people on CDL, not just in public works, but we do parks, fleet, facilities, codes and regs, help them all them out with that program as well. So we're very fortunate we can help them. Throughout the year, you always got your annual refresher trainings. Then you have your 2 and 3 year annual refreshers, and then you got your ones for new hires and people taking job bids and promotions from different areas. So it never ends. CDL training's pretty much 5 days a week. We had some hiccups through all that. What's going on? They just moved their location to the E-Town. They shut down the Louisville location, so we pushed through that. And I'm on a CDL advisory committee with the state. And they've made quite a few changes over the last couple of years. And every 3 to 5 years, they're always making changes, making it more stringent versus way back when you could be grandfathered in and all that. And that's a lot of that process is obsolete now. So as the trainings they fluctuate every year. It basically is going to depend on, like I said, what refreshers come up and our new hires. I think we hired quite a few new people since July 1st, right? 60 people since July 1st. So, and that's never ends. I think we have 17 people on the list. 9 of those are in training and 6 are scheduled for a test this month alone. So rocking and rolling with that. When it comes to all the training, we do everything. We got so many pieces of equipment. We do bucket truck, skid steer, excavator, flag or work zone safety from your lockout, tag out, confined spaces. And most of that is, for most everybody, that is done in-house by one of our instructors. I'm very fortunate with Fred Greenwell, his background, and I have Karen Connor. She's an ex-fire captain with Louisville Fire. And Edie's a great asset with equipment, and then Corey was a tipper over and driver at our solid waste management side. So wide variety of knowledge, and because if you look at public works, we're probably the most diverse department when it comes to what's required for work that we do, from trash to engineers to the roadside maintenance. It's never ending. It's a revolving door. But when it comes to the CDL required positions, we're not exempt from any of that, unfortunately. So we got a lot of big equipment. It's very dangerous. It's something they need to be trained on. So we spend numerous hours working with our employees, making sure they're fit for behind the wheel before they hit the road. When it comes to the CDL training procedures, obviously you have to go through a process. And that process, like I said, changes every couple of years. When it comes to obtain a medical card, not everybody can obtain a medical card, unfortunately. So they do a physical test for that, and you may not meet the criteria at the front door. Then you got to create an account, then you got to go through ELDT. It's something they implemented February last year. ELDT is entry-level driver training. Is where you have to go through a theory class. In class, where you got to pass a score with a certain percentage or higher. Then you got to have behind the wheel what they call road and range before we can even schedule you for a test with a state trooper in E-Town now. So when you get registered through all that, then you got to go through orientation with our HR team, and then you still got to go through the process of obtaining your permit, and then you got to go through the orientation. And once you're completed with that, you're approved to come to our team. And then you actually walk through the process of actually getting the skill set that you need to pass the test. You all have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'm in the queue. Thank you, sir. Thank you all for being here. I was looking at your vacancy data, however you say it. I think you are in need of 7 CDL drivers, sanitation tippers, drivers. So my question is, once you hire these people, does the city pay for that training?
Yes, we cover that training. Back in January of 2024, we implemented a reimbursement or an agreement, a CDL agreement, whereas when employees come in, new hires that don't have their CDL, they sign a contract stating that they'll stay with Public Works for 2 years after they obtain their CDL. And if they don't, they are required to pay $3,669, I believe is what it was, which that was an average of our cost. If somebody goes to Mr. P or some other organization to get it, it's usually about $8,000 or $9,000. If somebody makes it past, is it halfway through, they only have to pay half of that. But yes, we do cover the cost because our in-house team trains. We do reimburse for their license cost as well.
You know, Public Works is a very needed part of government. I mean, without it, the city would just be in shambles. So I'm just curious, do you all try to create any type of incentives to keep these employees or to recruit new employees? I mean, who are we losing them to? I looked at your stats, and I know that unfortunately some have passed away, some are retiring, but it looks like you have, let's see, 21% resigning.
Yes. What happens sometimes if an employee cannot get their CDL, that has been an issue, as Chris stated. Some may not be able to get their DOT medical card due to health reasons. Others, they just might not pass the test. And instead of their employment being terminated, some resign because our job descriptions, majority have 90 days to obtain your CDL. There are a couple job descriptions, I believe mechanics and the electrical maintenance journeyman, that are 6 months. So with the equipment operator, with the Teamster negotiations and the increased salaries, we think that will help. Once someone does obtain their CDL, they get an incentive pay of $1.15 for a Class A license on the hour and $1 for a Class B. So that is part of the incentive in that cost. So,
Are our salaries competitive, like with the Rumpke, the smaller cities around here, like Shavley?
yes, I would say since the negotiations, they did a great job on those wages, and they are competitive on that. Our sanitation tipper CDL numbers, they drive, but they tip for probably 6 months to a year before they're able to get on a route. I would say that is part of the turnover issue there. And we explain that in our interviews because some people think it's just a driving job. And that's the same with the equipment operator position. Some people think it's just they're just operating equipment, and that's not the case. They're out there flagging, they're tipping, they're shoveling asphalt, they're cleaning ditches, all that stuff. And it's not fancy, it's not great. You're getting up at 5 o'clock to be at work at 6 a.m. Some days you'll work, 8 hours, some days you'll work 14. You don't know, and you're in the heat, the cold, the rain. Garbage has to be picked up. They don't just postpone it. So they are physically hard positions. I'd say I did it probably 10 years ago, but I barely made it through a route. They call it following that orange pumpkin.
So this may be a question for Deputy Mayor George. What is the chance of a council person joining any of you all on your routes or hanging on the back of your truck?
Good afternoon, Nicole George, Deputy Mayor of Public Health, Public Services. I would say we would welcome any level of job shadow that a council member wants to do. I won't speak specifically on what is permitted based on safety. I'll defer to that. But in terms of coming out, getting to see the experience, I know my colleagues in solid waste would greatly appreciate that, as well as roads. And I know we've recently, several of council members have been able to shadow and do a route for snow, and that's very helpful. People like to show off what they do. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I will be following up and sending Mr. Logan a request, and I want him to drive. Thank you.
Councilman Bratcher.
Well, that was the question I had, is just, seems to be a lot of resignations, but you explained it. And but you are short 49 people, right?
Yes, we have 10 in the hiring process. I'll give you a little, next week we have our interview process. We have probably 5 different scheduled sets of interviews for just next week. Let's see. Yeah, we have packer, driver, engineers, and tippers this week that we've already had. Next week it's tipper CDLs, administrative assistants, public works inspector 3, equipment operators, and in addition to those, we have job bids under all of our collective bargaining agreements, especially Teamsters because it's our biggest. Once a position is vacated, say a senior equipment operator, we are required to post it within 48 hours. It's posted for 72 hours. Once it's posted, we go through those names and then award positions based on seniority, depending upon the title. Once those are awarded to our internal employees, they have 45 days to prove their ability that they can do the job. And then if they can't, they move back to their original position. It kind of gives that process, there's a lot of different moving parts. So we have to hold their original position for that 45 days. They may have to pass an equipment assessment. If they don't, then we stick them back in that equipment operator position. And then we go through that process again. So there's a lot of different factors that come into filling those positions and our ability to do it as quickly as we would like.
Thank you.
I need to make a correction. I said that my co-chair had a excused absence, but she has joined us online. Councilwoman Shamika Parrish-Wright is joining us virtually. Next to have Councilman Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The CDL license, who has, in Public Works, who has to have one of those, or are we talking about sanitation workers or only, or?
All of our job descriptions are listed on the PowerPoint, a tipper CDL, fully automatic truck driver, packer driver, waste collection, packer laborer, CDL, packer washout laborer, our electrical maintenance journeyman, our foreman, our general foreman, sign erector, paint machine operator 2s, waste reduction operators, crew leaders, senior equipment operators, mechanic 3s, and our safety and equipment training manager, supervisor, and specialist. So there's 250,
Had to have a CDL license?
yes.
So electrician has to have a CDL license, a maintenance person needs a CDL license. What happens when they get too old? You can't drive. I mean, that CDL is a commercial license, right, for driving heavy equipment?
Commercial driver's license, yeah.
So electrician is supposed to be able to drive heavy equipment, and he wouldn't be qualified if he can't drive heavy equipment. Is that what
Right.
you're saying?
Yes, under the electrical maintenance contract, there are, I think it's 4 exemptions for CDLs, for having a CDL. They operate bucket trucks, and then they have to pull the trailers with the posts on them, which require a commercial
Electricians
driver's
do?
license. Yes, sir.
They got to work heavy equipment too, huh?
Yes, sir.
Wow. That's a, huh? Okay, but the electrician has run a cherry picker. I mean, I know a lot of electricians I used to work with, they couldn't run a big equipment, but they were still good electricians. You know, to do a trade, then be something else, not be able to qualify because you can't get a CDL license.
We do hire them without the license and then train them. They have 6 months to obtain it. So we don't require it coming in the door.
Well, if you have a hearing problem or a sight problem or something, you might not be able to do that, but you could still do a trade. I'm a
Right.
tool maker, and I'd hate to say, somebody says, well, if you can't drive a big rig, you can't be a tool maker. I said, you can't do what I do, even if you can drive one. You know, and to me, I think that's the qualification. No, I know you have maybe some problems getting some people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that who could you qualify? I wouldn't be able to qualify. Thanks.
You have any other questions?
No.
All right. Councilwoman Chapel.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a reminder to all the council folks and everybody else that may be watching, that the CDL license is currently, the test is only given in E-Town, and that's by Kentucky State Police. And so we need to do a better job at getting them to do testing here in Louisville. So just wanted to plug that. 2 questions. First off, the fiscal year 26 chart that you had pulled up, could you discuss the difference between vacancy data and hiring data? I guess compared to each other, that means since the start of fiscal year 26, so July 1st, 2025, there were 8 administrative assistants. You've hired 6, and then you still have 2 open. Is that how I'm supposed to?
They don't know what they're doing.
Translate those charts?
No, currently, right at this moment, we have 2 vacant administrative assistant positions. Since July 1, we have hired 6.
And you still have 2 positions open?
Yes, actually, there's 1 that's in the hiring process, so there is 1 open.
So altogether, at the beginning of the year, there were 8. And so looking at this data, I'll go through the, let's see, sanitation tipper. In the vacancy data, there's 7. In the hiring data, there is 3. So is that 10 positions at the start of the fiscal year?
No, the vacancy data is as of today. That's what we currently have vacant. There could have been moving parts from July 1st until now, if that makes sense.
I think so. Does that make sense? Yeah, one last question. The Director of Public Works, can we talk about the status of that search and where we are in it and when we expect to have a new person appointed?
Nicole George, Deputy Mayor, Public Health, Public Services. We are in the process of hiring an executive director for Public Works and should have an announcement very soon.
I just had one question further, and it has to, this chart's good for it. Do you have an idea on the timeline between when you first interview somebody and when you make their job offer and get the acceptance?
I do not have that on me, but I could get it to you.
If you could, I'd appreciate that. I don't think it's any secret that I'm passionate about the gap that we currently have in metro government. And I think that Public Works and Parks are probably 2 of the best-run departments we have in metro government. And I'd like to use that as maybe a yardstick. But if we can shorten that gap between interview and offer to same day, that's my expectation.
Yeah.
I understand that's a tough one,
We try to
but
do.
6 months is way too far.
Yes.
Which I don't think that's what you're facing, or you wouldn't have this chart right here.
Right. We're doing a very good job. Like I said, the HR team in Public Works is awesome. And they work well with the Metro HRs as well. Sometimes it is challenging to get so many applicants in, get our hiring managers to review those, set interviews up. Sometimes there's some lag. And then with the background checks being processed as well,
So once you identify a candidate and want to make the offer, is there any bureaucracy that you're seeing between your wanting to make that offer and getting approval to make that offer through Metro government?
No, say we do interviews and do a recommendation on today, we'll send it over. HR gets the background check out to the candidate fairly quick. Sometimes it takes the candidate a little bit of time because they have to go online and complete it. And then, I mean, as far as the recommendation you make, as far as salary, there might be negotiation between CNC and the employee or candidate. But other than that, we have not really had any issues with the
good,
lag
good.
time.
I see that Councilwoman Purvis has re-entered the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to know, how are you classifying the alley cleanup crew? What category do they fall under?
The Alley Action Crew or
Yes,
Clean
ma'am.
Collab? Clean Collaborative or the Alley Action? Crew?
Alley Action.
I believe Alley Action is Packer Labor, CDLs and Packer Laborers. Packer Laborers, a senior equipment
Packer-
operator, and a Packer driver.
Packer laborers?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And you are in need of 3?
we are actually at 4 vacancies, or, sorry, I was looking at the wrong.
So you,
Yeah, you're right, 3 Packer Labor positions right
and you
now.
have 4, so you need 7.
No, we have 3 Packer Labor vacancies currently.
Yeah, you have 3 vacant, and you have hired 4, right?
We've hired 4 since July 1st.
Okay. So, is that 7 total? or
No.
So what is the total number?
3 vacancies currently.
No, I mean, what's the total staffing number?
Oh, for Alley Action?
Mm-hmm.
Off the top of my head, Susan, do you know? 10? 10 people.
10, okay. Now, I want to ask, because I've had this conversation before, oftentimes, people do a lot of illegal dumping. They will dump bags of trash, not in a container. And I know that you all are concerned about your employees picking up stuff, not knowing what's in it, if there's something toxic or needles or what have you. So, and I have a lot of alleys with trash like that just laying around. Well, especially if it's in a vacant lot, who's going to pick it up? No constituent's going to pick it up, and you all are saying that you can't pick it up. So when do we finally, how do we get rid of this stuff? Is it just going to stay there forever? I mean, what is the plan? Are you all working on a plan to pick up stuff that has just been laying there for a long period of time? Or I think you all have some vehicles with grabbers, do you not? Have vehicles with grabbers?
Nicole George, Deputy Mayor, Public Health, Public Services. Completely understand the frustration for District 5 residents as well as neighbors across the city where you have illegal dumping that occurs on a vacant private lot in which Metro Solid Waste is not necessarily able to legally pick up on private property. I don't want to speak for Director Price, but my understanding is that they do have an accelerated way in which they can both send notice to that property owner that there is a violation on their property, and if that property owner doesn't respond timely, then they can go in with their vacant lots crew and clean that property. So I do understand that there is there's a time frame in which they have to meet and try to notify the owner. I know Director Price is working on a strategy to further prevent delays in that, but in this moment, that is the strategy. It is for notification, and then code enforcement vacant lots crew can go in and clean.
Okay, so I have another question for you. Are you all sharing these employees, or they have their own staff?
Codes and Regs has their own staff,
They have their own staff?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Their vacant lots division, just to a little FYI, they are under the same union, Teamster Master, as our roads division and solid waste division.
If I may, Councilwoman, I would say that having been out to that vacant lots crew, that team would also appreciate council going out to see their work and shadow. They're a mighty bunch.
I
They
would
also
love
do the
to.
cutting, they do grass cutting, they do several things.
I would love to. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I had one quick question, sorry.
Yep.
Regarding illegal dumping, I know we discussed either in this committee or public safety, one, I can't remember which one, that currently that if there are multiple violations of illegal dumping, that they can confiscate the vehicles, but then they give them back once they pay the fines. I would be in favor of pursuing permanent confiscation after so many violations, similar to what we do with street racing. I don't want to crush them, but I don't like that particular part of that. But if people are out continually disrespecting their fellow citizens and neighbors by dumping over and over again, I would have no problem confiscating those vehicles permanently, if that's something we'd like to pursue.
Well, I believe that was in public safety, but I'd be glad to help work on an ordinance with you on that. Councilman Purvis.
I'm sorry, last time. I just want to say thank you all for working so quickly in confiscating that vehicle last week that was in Portland. I mean, that was just great. So I just want to say thank you. And Councilman Herndon, I have been a cheerleader for that. I like crushing cars, though.
I only say that I don't because there are lots of folks out there who need some vehicles, and if I'd rather recycle them and give them to somebody who needs one than just crush a perfectly good.
Well, if it's a Frankenstein car, you can't
Well,
reuse
true
it
enough,
anyway.
true enough.
Yeah, so.
And on that note, having no one else in the queue, we stand adjourned. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.